Minister, I'm honored to welcome you and the distinguished members of your party to the United States. This welcome is only the beginning. You will find as you travel through this country a very deep and genuine interest in the exciting developments which are taking place in your country and in Africa today.
I am very pleased to be with you in Washington today, and I look forward to the week which we are to spend among you. I have no doubt that the American people would receive us with all the kindness that they ought to receive strangers. This is just a brief reply to your very warm address of welcome. Thank you.
An official motorcade now conveys Prime Minister Balewa to the center of Washington. Many friendly Americans are waiting to welcome Sir Abubakar to his home in Washington. During his stay in the American capital, the distinguished visitor will reside at the Blair House, the special residence for guests of the American president. Just across the street from the Blair House is the White House, where President Kennedy awaits Prime Minister Balewa. The two leaders are meeting to discuss matters of mutual and international interest. In a joint communique summarizing the outcome of their deliberations, they reaffirm their support for the principle of self-determination for dependent peoples and their unalterable opposition to racial discrimination under any name or in any guise. President Kennedy expressed his pleasure at the success of the Monrovia Conference and congratulated the Prime Minister on his constructive contribution. The two leaders affirmed their confidence that their exchange of views had strengthened the bonds of friendship between their two countries. The next stop for Sir Abubakar is a memorial to one of America's best-loved presidents, Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln Memorial is a goal for every visitor to the American capital. Tourists from all over the world are drawn by a reverence for the man known by all men as the great emancipator. As they stand before the statue of Lincoln, the Prime Minister and his party remember the words in which Lincoln addressed his countrymen. He called upon them to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. Sir Abubakar and his party see a monument to America's first president, George Washington, as they leave the Lincoln Memorial. A group of children proudly display the placard which Prime Minister Balewa has autographed for them. The United States Department of State is the Prime Minister's next stop. An exhibit of photographs from Nigeria and of Nigerian arts and crafts has been planned to coincide with Sir Abubakar's visit
To the world, and one of the most powerful regard it as a signal of honor and privilege to be invited to address this world-famed gathering, not only because the United States of America is one of the leading nations of the world and one of the most powerful and advanced on earth today, but also because I believe that those who have struggled and worked to achieve independence will share with you and the great country which you represent a special meaning of liberty, of
Permit me, just for sake of time. All right, let's talk about that for a few minutes. Is there anybody who how did you feel watching that? Anybody? I mean, I can't take everybody if you don't mind. And this is not a leadership lecture, okay? We're only trying to get an understanding of the why we're doing what we're doing. Because once you understand the why, then the how is easy. If you don't understand the why, you will need to be told what every step of it. And at the slightest resistance, you're likely to back out. So let's get the why first. How did you feel watching this? Who wants to do it? Anybody just show your hands? 1, 2, 3. I was hoping one lady at least would show. Okay, thank you. All right. Let me start with the ladies because I always love to start with ladies, right? It's okay. All right. Tell me what went on in your mind as you watched that video.
I don't know. Actually, a mix of things. To be honest, I wasn't fully focused on the video because I was just having a disagreement with someone who was telling me, you haven't done anything in government, why should they vote for you? And I don't know you personally, but I just went on a rant, but I'm backing out. Yeah, so just speaking about what you were saying about, finding your why, I think that's so key. I'm not sure if you've got that perspective from Simon Sinek's TED Talk,
yes,
where he talked about the golden circle, and that, everything is your why, your how, and then what. But if you don't find your why, everything just goes, pear-shaped. So, that's pretty much why I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And so what went on through your mind about you?
So whilst I appreciate the fact that Fela Durotoye at that point had a very good international representation of us, if one really looks at it in detail, there were already cracks showing because of the structural issue that we had. At the same time that we had a good international front, we had the Sardana of Sokoto. This is a video that is on YouTube, saying in an interview that he would hire expatriates before he would hire Southerners, right? So in my view then, I deal with Londoners very well.
Okay, so I was trying to get something from here. Okay, so I know that there's a lot of backstory also that you have to what's here, but I really wanted to focus on this.
Okay, so from that perspective,
So what was going on, and I mean that was what was going on in your mind, because there was also other backstories, right? We were looking at this and saying, but the other things I know, and then you started obviously having some kind of internal conversation with yourself. But I just wanted us to focus, because there are conversations that will never end, around some of these things.
The video was just showing to us when Nigeria was respected among the Community of Nations. That is exactly. I can't say
So did you
Nigerian
think
leader
that any
now.
of the crowds that were there were rented crowds?
No.
So they were not paid crowds. So it's one thing for the government to show respect to Nigerian government officials for whatever the reason that they had in mind. The real big deal was not how the government of America treated Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. It was how the people of America treated just these guys who I'm sure they probably didn't even know their names. All they knew was that these guys were from a great country called Nigeria. And that will lead me to a question, then my next question, once we're able to throw this. You were going to say something, but please throw your voice loud enough.
About the respect for what you said about
eloquence of the Prime Minister. Most people just think that, oh, you come from a particular part of the nation, that, you know, anybody understands? There was a time when excellence was rewarded. But there was a time when the brightest and the best of communities were the ones that were given the mandate to provide service to the rest of the community. There was a time when it was the people who had capacity that were trusted by everybody else, where merit was what was driving appointments. Yes, you will say something.
Just to add to what you said, yes, it was beautiful to see that we were embraced by the American nation, but it was a time of racial tension as well, and the fact that you saw people there who were not black, who were also white, embracing figures from Africa, when there's racial tensions in America, where people are going through poverty, where there's segregations in parts of the South, but you're seeing them embracing an African president. That's the first thing that I captured from that.
And you made it matter that within the next 3 years or 4 years, I mean, significant stride was taken in desegregating America, at least legally, okay? If you know what I mean. But the point that I'm making, and so that I don't stay too long on this point, is we have a legacy of greatness. And many of the people who want to try and find what it is that separates us are the same kind of people that are going to be sending that kind of message. Why should I vote for him? Has he asked for the vote? Can anybody remember whether Fela has ever said to anyone, anywhere, my name is Fela Durotoye, I want you to vote for me? Have you seen it anywhere?
No.
You know why? It's not because I'm not going to ask for your vote, but because this thing is not about whether you vote for one man or not. This thing is about a generation. And I don't know whether the guy who's out there saying, why should I vote for him, what has he done? I would love to say to him, listen, there's going to come a time, and I hope you're watching me, that your children are going to ask you what you did. And when they ask you what you did, I hope you are able to say, I did more than ask what another man has done. Because I stayed focused on what I can do. I don't know whether he has a voter's card. If he does, great. And this has been my message. Don't vote for Fela Durotoye in 2019. Mark my words. Let everybody put it out. Don't vote for Fela Durotoye. Don't even vote for anybody in 2019. Vote for your own vision of the Nigeria you want to live in, you would like to hand over to the next generation, and whoever has any vision that aligns with that kind of vision, then you know where your vote will go. Vote for values, but you must know what your own values are before you can find your values in somebody else. So don't vote for other people's values, vote for your own. And anybody who has values like the one you would like your children to have, that person obviously represents the kind of person you want your children to be. That is the kind of person that then you should channel your votes towards, because your vote is not a decision on your own generation. It's a decision for the next generation. You want to know how to be able to fix Nigeria? Decide that first, and then look for anybody who is thinking like you. So this is not about whether you vote for Fela Durotoye or whether you vote for anybody else. Can you at least vote for yourself? Decide what vision you want for Nigeria. And I hope you, don't worry about giving us a feedback on what.
It's not feedback. My issue is, I don't want to like generalize like the whole Nigerian thing. I feel like as Nigerians, we do a lot of talking. And when it comes to doing, when you find someone doing, you just carry all your negative energy and you just say, oh.
But I will tell you how we got there. Don't blame that person. And thank God that you are not one of that, but it's not easy. Most people that are in a space where there are negative thinking, they were made to become like that, and I'll show you that.
I guess it was just the...
So permit me to quickly move forward, and I'm sure I'll find something else that I can show. The question is, so how and why did we get to this point? Where such a blessed nation, a great nation, with such great legacy has gotten to become a pariah amongst nations. Where today most people are essentially just trying to get out. There are two theories that I have. Okay? One of them is that there came the emergence of a me generation. That the guys I was talking about were a we generation. These guys had the ability to have gone through life under colonial rule, and they could have been all right. He had already gone to school in the United Kingdom, and he also, and he went to school in the United States. Okay? These guys were not, I repeat, they were not experiencing the same kind of second-class citizenship as most of Nigeria was, even under colonial rule. They had opportunity, but their opportunity was not enough for them to decide that since I am okay, we are okay, which is what you see here. I don't know how many of you find this funny, but these guys are saying, I'm sure glad the hole isn't at our end. Does it matter which end the hole is at?
No. No.
But you can see a generation of people who started to think that if my own kids can go to school in the United Kingdom, then it doesn't matter whether education fails. It doesn't matter whether we have no power. Well, at least I have a generator. It doesn't matter whether the roads are bad. Thank God I was able to buy a Jeep. And so basically a me generation had emerged that started to plunder our commonwealth for personal, what you would call success. And they started to put individual success ahead of collective failure. And let me be clear about something. Individual success in the midst of collective failure will always be despised. Okay? We've seen a nation continually rise, and the water levels are rising, people. And I don't know whether way beyond 2019 the waters will not capsize this. But one thing is for sure, many of those people are relying on a people who are exactly like this. And I'm sorry I didn't ask your name. Ma'am, please, what's your name? Yinka. Adeyinka. I believe very strongly that, you see, what has happened to your friend as it is to many of us is that over time we have become like this. Now, I just need a few other people who haven't said anything also today, so please try and share their mind on what it is that they see. So this is the second why. The first reason why was that people began to become selfish and self-centered, and greed overtook people who were supposed to serve. And power, and the acquisition of power began, people started to use power to acquire wealth to themselves, and they started to care more about themselves than the other people. This is the second reason why we got to where we were. Can anybody share their perspective on this? I'll come to you. Please thank you for sharing. Yes, sir.
I think for me, it's just a case of if we can't beat them, we join them.
Hey, you can't beat them, join them.
It's
That's an interesting one.
a culture.
Okay.
I find people say to me, I was speaking to someone a couple of weeks ago on the train, and they were saying to me, the brother's planning to go back to Nigeria to get a contract. The intention was not to do anything, but rather to make money out of it. Yeah. And for me, I was shocked, I was alarmed, because this person actually lives here. For me, a lot of people have become complacent, and they're not trying to break away from it.
Thank you very much. People have become complacent. Anybody else? And they're not trying to break away. What do you see here?
I see a people that are tamed.
People that are tamed.
Yeah, not because they're in prison, but because their mind has been made to be conditioned like they're tamed. Now this horse can actually move with this person.
Sorry, if this horse were to sneeze, what will happen to it?
And I think the reason why we have this is because we have the natural capital, we have the produce capital, we have the intermediate capital, which comprises of human capital and informal infrastructure. So now we have a people that have not been we've not invested in them.
Yes, sir.
So we have people that their capacity is really not. And I'm going to maybe when I have the opportunity, I'll probably expand on that. And we need a system. We need infrastructure that would build capacity in these people. talking about skills and stuff like that. We need them to think outside the box.
Okay,
The
thank
box,
you,
yes.
thank you, thank you. And we're coming to it,
Okay.
because like I said, today's about three things when we get to the Q&A. It's number one, answering questions. Number two, addressing concerns. And number three, sharing ideas. All right, those are the three things we're trying to do. I hope that you will all be able to have the time to be able to express, and we want to try and do that, at least have a 2-hour session today. And since we have to be out of here by 4:30, I have to be out of this presentation by 2:30. So if you don't mind, I'll just take one last lesson here. What do you see here?
So the horse has the mental capacity to release him or herself from the chair, but not knowing that if the horse decides to walk away, yes, the chair will still be an affliction, but as you continue to progress, somebody will see you and help you and take away that affliction. But the horse hasn't got the capacity to understand that, okay, even if I keep on moving, Nigeria as a nation, we can have an affliction, but as we come together as a common community, common unity, somebody will have the capability to take away the affliction, and then we can move together.
Fantastic. And I would ask you to please put your hands together for everybody that's So what is our chair? What is our chair? Establishment.
Read.
The ruling.
Read.
How are we doing today?
How are we doing today? Pointing fingers, blaming. What else? What is the thing that is holding us down that really doesn't have the power to do so, but we almost believe that it is doing so? Fear. Okay, interesting. Many people say the establishment, cabal, mindset. Okay. So basically what's been happening is that over the last 50 or so years, a group of people have conditioned our minds to believe that there is no point. And somehow over 50 years of subjugation and oppression and depression and repression, and I'm not just using Sean words, we've come to the point where we think that our numbers don't count, that our voices cannot be heard. We think that our action will make no difference, and most of us believe very strongly that matters are already pre-decided. There is no point in taking action. So, if you speak to an average person in Nigeria, you will probably find out that many of them have not voted. Why? And they don't even have voters' cards. Why? Because they would say to you, what is the point? The vote has already been counted before we even cast, before election day. Have you heard that before? Yeah. Have you heard people say, they will not let us? Have you heard that one before? Yeah. Have you heard that one say, if Fela is serious, he should go on one of the established parties so we know he's serious? Have you heard that one before? Yeah. Yet I asked 4 questions, if not 5. And I don't know whether you guys will be happy to answer the questions the way I did, but I'll wait for your answer first. Are you happy with the way things are in Nigeria? Yes or no? No. Clear. And I'm sure that the person who's probably also talking about Fela Durotoye is not happy. But number 2, do you think Nigeria is blessed enough with resources, human, natural, mineral, whatever it takes, positional, climate? Do you think we are blessed enough to be a better country than the way we are today? Yes. Okay, number 3. How many of you want to give a better Nigeria to your children, whether they are here in the United Kingdom or anywhere else in the world, but you want the next generation to get a better Nigeria than our own generation? Anybody? Okay, number 4. Should it be our children that will fix Nigeria? Yes or no? No. Okay, so if it's our generation, then when should we start? Now. And then if there's a final question, then what are you doing now? And I appreciate what you're doing now. You are in a room here today when you could have been somewhere else. You're here not only because you could have decided to watch this online. You knew it was going to be streamed. But you decided to come here at your own cost. Just to quickly say, is there anyone that was paid to be here? So I'm grateful for what you're doing. But what you're doing is what I'm trying to get 190 million people to begin to accept responsibility for their nation and not just their own personal well-being. To believe in this greatness that is called Nigeria. To commit their time, their energy, like you are committing your time and your energy, and to do something more than just ask why Fela Durotoye is not starting at Senate or House of Reps or chairman of local government. And I thank every newly commissioned guidance counselors at careers who are advising on career. I just ask the very simple question. Take your eyes off Fela Durotoye for a moment and stand in front of the mirror. That's all I'm asking. If you stand in front of the mirror, ask yourself, am I doing enough to justify the stories I will need to tell my children about how we fix Nigeria? Because if one guy is trying to do what he can, why don't you just ask yourself, what can I do? And I think that this is where this is about. I want to disabuse some minds by sharing a piece of statistic that might blow your mind. So last year, Etiosa local government elections produced a new chairman who will run the city council of Etiosa local government for the next 3 years. Honorable Saeed Adeshakuba Akode was declared the winner of the results, having collated it in the general election, Etiosa local government council chairmanship elections. You must remember Etiosa local government is made up of some of the places that some of you have heard, maybe some of you have lived. Places like Obalende, Ikoyi, Oniru, Victoria Island, Lekki, Ajah, all the way there. Estimated population 4.5 million. So 4.5 million, and this is the third largest in terms of revenue generating local government in Nigeria. This is where the headquarters of most of the companies that you know as Nigerian blue chip companies are. This is also the headquarters, this is also the local government where the national chairman of one of the parties, ruling parties, lives. The governor's house is in this local government. The leader of the southwest of the opposition party is also in this local government. This is what you call, in Yoruba Palace, the Taton local government. What do you mean Taton? Is the one that you spend everything you have to make sure that, man, we must secure this local government. 4.5 million people, be using the median age of the median spread of Nigeria, 55% of them above the age of 18, meaning over 2.5 million people living in Etiosa are above the age of 18. You should imagine that, man, these guys would have done everything they could to ensure that this local government goes to whichever party it is. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of literally a 10-hour voting count, this was what the power blocks were able to mobilize. PDP was able to mobilize 1,141 votes. APC was able to mobilize 10,628 votes. Together, the establishment was able to get out of Etiosa local government 11,769 votes. And they told you that they were the ones that would determine the outcomes of the election. Did they? Yes, sir?
No.
Who determined?
The people who didn't vote.
The people who didn't vote! These were the people who determined the outcome of the election. 2015 election, 96 million people above the age of 18. 68 million temporary voters cards issued. Not all were permanent voters cards were issued, but bottom line, after all of the accumulation of the results, 28.6 million votes were counted. I didn't say cast. You know the difference? $40 million people that went as far as getting their temporary voters cards did not vote. Even if we assume that every vote that was cast by a voter, which it wasn't. Another 30 million people did not even decide to vote at all, to even go. So 70 million people decided not to get involved. So who determines the elections? Let me put it another way. Remember, when you do not vote, you get the government you deserve. When you do vote, you may get the one you desire. Some people say things like, my vote will not count. I said, for sure, the votes you do not cast will never count. If you do not cast your vote, it will never be counted. If you cast your vote, it may be counted. But the chances of it being counted are higher when you cast it than when you don't. And so basically, guys, I'm taking you through the kind of thing that I'm doing in Nigeria on a daily basis. So I'm wakening up a generation to begin to see how can we take action. Because this thing here is an illusion. But it's like Ojuju. Anybody remember Ojuju? Some of you probably, I don't know, maybe some of you have never heard about Ojuju because you never grew up, maybe you didn't grow up in Nigeria. And Ojuju what? Thank you very much. Can anybody tell me why Ojuju had to come from Calabar? Because I didn't even know where Calabar was. So it was bad enough. Ojuju was scary. They now put Calabar there, and I'm thinking that was already beginning to do some kind of racial profiling, tribal profiling. Yeah? I said, why did you do? But the point was, did anybody ever see Ojuju? Can you remember the day Ojuju stopped scaring you? It was the day you decided to step outside. Because Ojuju was always meant to keep you inside. Your parents didn't want you to go out, they would tell you Ojuju is outside. Abi? Then one day, for whatever the reason, you forgot that Ojuju was outside, you got outside and didn't see anybody. Then your parents said, did you see Ojuju? Say no. Say, I thought he was outside. You realized, who is even Ojuju saying? And before you know it, you started to go outside, regardless of whether Ojuju was there. You were never told Ojuju was not there. You just realized that it didn't matter. It's not that the cabals are not there. It's not that the establishment is not there. You're just realizing that it don't matter. That when you take a step forward as a generation, and you decide to take your own one step, forget what everybody else is doing. Just go on your own. Make up your own mind about the nation you want. Make up your mind about the values you want for your children and the next generation. Make up your mind about the way you think you should fix this thing and look for someone. Casting a vote is not doing anybody any favor. So anybody that has asked me, Fela, why should I vote for you? I ask them, why should you vote for me? Good question. Answer it. They say, no, you are the one looking for my vote. And I say to them, I'm not looking for your vote. I'm looking for a new country. And I'm looking for the people who will build it. And when I find them, I will not need to ask for their votes. I will represent them. I'm not begging them for their votes. And if you want to clap, it's a good place. This is about us, guys. This is not about Fela. This is about us. Because it will take good governance to be able to deliver a most desirable nation. And we can do it by 2025. But it will take good governance at four core levels. Number one, at the private sector level. That's governance, not just government, guys. Not for profit and for profits. Then in public service, we need the ministries, departments, and agencies to have good people who have good hearts. Many of you here are working for the government of the United Kingdom. But how many of you would have been willing to finish taking your incredible master's degree in some of the best universities, University of Greenwich, University of Nottingham, and I've been to both in the last 2 days. Right? LBS, Oxford, Imperial, blah, 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 blah. back and work for Nigerian Railway Corporation, even your family members will start prayer fasting. But does anybody here know anyone who works in Nigeria Water Corporation? Water Corporation. Nigeria Water Corporation. No. What Nigeria Water Corporation? So the question is, are you surprised that we don't have water coming out of our taps without a borehole? If our brightest and best will not engage in public service, how are we supposed to make and serve the public? Right? In policy, elected officials and appointed officials, but at the foundation of all of this, the most important one, which determines everything else, the political party sector. So in that you have your executive delegates and members. Now my question is, if you were to look at it and ask yourself, how many of you, and I'm not going to bother again, you already asked them, all of us here want a better Nigeria, but how many of us are connected in any way to this force? And then you begin to ask yourself, so how do we fix it? Yeah. So we need exceptional excellence. We need people who are competent, people who have capacity, people who have courage, people who have compassion and love in their hearts, people who have charisma. And the power of charisma is the ability to convince people that you have not you as a person, but they are great. Charismatic people don't let you think of how great. In other words, as a charismatic leader, my job is not to get you to think of how great I am, it's to get you to know how great you are. And then, of course, we need people with credibility. And at the heart of all of this is people who are consistent, and that's where character goes. Guys, this is what we're supposed to be looking for. If we've got this kind of people as members of political parties, as executives of political parties, as delegates of political parties, as elected officials, as appointed officials, as civil servants and public servants, and if we've got this kind of people in business, what kind of nation will we have?
A great one.
Huh? A new Nigeria. Okay. Do you know any nation where generally you will find people like this? Generally. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but generally, people like that. Do you have any nation like that? Give me a few names. UK. Yeah? You find people like this?
Australia.
America. Okay? Anyone? Germany. Europe. So let us understand, are those nations more blessed than Nigeria? No. So let's be clear about something. We know what is missing. The next question is, how do we fix it? And inside all of these things, I may not see political experience in any of them. Because even with credibility, you ask one question simply. What has this person done when they did not have political office? Somebody made a point that blew my mind yesterday. He said, name one product that any former president has that has come out of his company, maybe apart from Obasanjo. Can anybody do so? So you ask yourself, how is it that these guys were not into enterprise before they acquired power, and they did not go back into enterprise after? So how can enterprise thrive in Nigeria? Does somebody understand what I'm saying? Yes. So here it is, guys. We've got just a few options between 2020 now and 2025. We've got 2019 elections and 2023, and 2019 is the only one that we have right now. That's why we're worried about it. That's why Fela is stepping up. Because I can't ask people to do what I will not do. It would not be a heart of integrity. So what do we need to do? Very quickly. Number one, we need to get good people to run for elected office in 2019. And just so that you know, in 2019, only 1,588 people will be elected and sworn in 2019, including 29 deputy governors and 1 vice president. Are you saying to me that there are not up to 1,588 good people that have these capacities? Is it possible that we don't have 1,588 people in Nigeria like this, that don't want to steal, that have political will, that have the courage to be able to take the right decision? Is there somebody who will disagree that we do not have 1,588? So the question is, how do we get them out? Okay, number 2, we got to make sure that when these guys come out, they must be trained and ready to run, ready to win, and ready to deliver. To do that, they must have 7 clear things. Number 1, clear priorities. Number 2, clear plans. Number 3, clear programs. Number 4, clear policies. Number 5, the right people. Number 6, the right platforms. And number 7, the right propaganda. These things are not developed in one day. Even the governments that have invested millions of dollars getting some of the brightest consulting companies to take months to create plans that are sitting on desks and in shelves. Understand that it is not the lack of good plans that is our problem, it's the lack of political will. Number 2, we need to get good people to vote the right candidates. That means you need to get 30 million voters to go and get their voters card. Number 3, we need to get good people to join parties that have internal democracy. Meaning a party that does not use a delegate system, because delegates are bought. And once you buy the delegates, then you have power brokers. Once you have power brokers, you need to go and beg those power brokers if you want to be able to aspire for office. Once you have to go and beg the power brokers, once you go and aspire for office, they hold you by the neck, and when you get into office, you will not be able to take any decision except it is ratified by them. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? Yes. So the only way you can have freedom to take the right decisions is when it is the people you owe. For it to be the people that you will owe, they must be the ones that will vote for you. Like the way you have it in the Conservative Party, or in the Labour Party, New Labour Party, or in Democratic Party, or in the Republican Party. The people go to the voting block, to the voting booth during the party primaries. There is no shenanigans happening at convention. We already knew who won. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yes. This is what needs to be happening. And the last one is that we need the right candidates who will have the kind of policies that will help to deliver on the promises. So guys, this is what it is that I'm doing. I'm going to show you the last quick video, and then I'll take your questions, because, well, I'll take your questions after this. Watch this so you understand exactly what it is that I'm trying to do. When you get this, your understanding will be complete. You know without question.
सर आपके लिए उस पार कार का इंतजाम किया है सर आइए सर
कुछ करो ना
मैं वहां जाके क्या उखाड़ूंगा
कैसी जाने बूंदे आए जाने कैसा दर्द आए सामने क्या है ये तेरे दूर का है तो बता दे कौन तुझको पार लेगा कौन होगा मसीहा जिसे तू ढूंढता है वो ही है तू वही है तुझ में तेरा रास्ता है तुझ में तेरा है सहारा तू ही तुझको पार लेगा तू ही है तेरा किनारा तुझ में तेरा रास्ता है तुझ में तेरा है सहारा तू ही तुझको पार लेगा तू ही है तेरा किनारा ढूंढता है तू ही रे तेरा मसीहा
So maybe some of you would laugh. So just we really don't have the time to. Well, we really don't have much time to be able to discuss deeply, but did we see a leader emerge in that video? Yeah. Who was the leader? The little boy. Do we all agree? Yes. You don't think so?
Yeah.
So,
The concept in that video, yes, the little boy started it, but I think more importantly, he was the best follower. So everyone was there to begin. No one had the courage to come and join the little boy. But once the first person came, everyone came along.
fantastic.
I think there's a first follower. I think there's a.
So the first follower you think was
the
the
first
leader?
follower, yes.
Not the little boy.
Not the little boy.
The little boy was not
the
the
little boy
leader.
was the initiator or something.
So, but did you
first
see a
follower,
leader emerge?
Yes,
in that?
yes, yes.
Who was the leader?
I think the first follower was the leader.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, it's a very interesting. Remember, perspective is, I told you, perspective is powerful, yeah? That's the first time I'm hearing that perspective, right? But the point that I'm making here is very simple. You would realize that there was a tree, a problem that that boy did not cause, a problem the boy met there, a problem that seemed insurmountable, even for everyone, a problem that was creating a problem for everyone. People couldn't move further simply because this problem existed. And just when it looked like as if the problem was bad enough, then it was as if God added to the complications. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying. And if you look there, you would have heard different things. You would hear a lady who was saying, I hate this country. Anybody heard that one? The lady was hating the country because a tree was in the road, but she was sitting down in the bus and hating the country. How many of you know people who hate Nigeria? You are hating Nigeria for a problem that you have refused to solve. All right? You saw people drinking tea in one place. They were looking at the problem and having a good time. You saw families that were going into crisis, husband and wife fighting because of the challenges that were saying. And you saw a little boy that literally had no reason to try to move a tree because he could have just walked past the tree. Who would have blamed the little boy for doing it? If he had just walked past? No, right? But the boy did not create the problem, but he chose to solve the problem. And I'm asking a very simple question. What's your tree? Because each and every one of us should have a tree that we're trying to push every day when we live. It's a problem we didn't create, but we are determined in our heart that we will be the ones to solve. Well, my tree is bad governance. That's what I'm deciding to do. And I've showed you the 4 key things I'm trying to do about it. And I'm saying I can't do it by myself, but I know one thing about it, that we all can do it. How do I know? Because when you look at this, again, you find out. I mean, somebody will say to you, do you see courage or self-restraint? And some people will see self-restraint because you're looking at this amazing, this cabal of people. Right? Depending on what you're looking at. And some of you will see courage because you're looking at this little tiny thing that is going through the valley of the shadow of death. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
But you know, the thing about it is that when you really look look at it, after about 6 months of being trained to do amazing things, these canine dogs are about to graduate, and this is their final test. It's called the heel test. The heel test is the ability to withstand your impulse just until you are released to do so. Right? But I really always wondered, I know what they taught the dog to self-control. What I've always wondered was, what did they teach the cat? What did they tell? Did they tell the cat, we have trained the dogs well, don't worry? I don't think that was what happened. Actually, I don't think that they told the cat anything about the dogs. I think they told the cat something about itself. I think they told the cat, don't believe what the people say about you. The stuff that you have the capacity to do, if only you will try. And I think that the idea was the cat was strolling around, waiting for the first dog that was going to bite its head off. And please let me be clear. Like the cat, many of you here are sitting down. You may not have the capacity to vote because you are in diaspora, but many of you have voices that can shift 100 voters. Many of you have capacity to be able to move 1,000 people. Some of you can move more than 11,769 people, even from just social media. Some of you have to only be able to know how to encourage people to do the right thing and go and get them to get their voters cards. Some of you have to be able to enlighten and give superior arguments over some of the negative arguments that are presented by others. Remember, arguments are not won by the loudness of voice, they are won by the superior questions that you throw back. Somebody asks you, why should you vote for Fela Durotoye? You don't answer with, well, I should vote for him because. You will throw back a question at that person and say, are you happy with the way things are? And if the person says no, then you say, Fela Durotoye is doing something, what are you doing? So you don't answer question with answer, you answer question with question. You must ask a superior question to the one that it is that was asked. And when you find out that you have somebody who is genuinely interested in how can we move it forward, that's the person that deserves an answer. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? So you don't answer the cynics with answers, they will despise your answer. Answer cynics with questions, and they will keep quiet. But when you find someone who's truly interested and says, what can I do? How can I help? Those ones are those that deserve the answers. It's about perspective. Somebody asked, what has Fela done? And somebody is still going to despise this even if you tell me what they are. But in 2009, I wanted to show people what they could do, what kind of difference they could make. I'd gone to Mushin to do a program, and to cut the long story short, it occurred to me that Mushin was a place for making unique stars and heroes in Nigeria. Lagos State had just issued an edict saying that by January 10, 2010, all the houses on the high streets needed to be painted. I was looking at houses, it looked like it was black and white. And I realized many of the people that own these houses will never be able to paint it. I was running a leadership conference, and I was telling the people, leadership is the ability to influence people, to solve problems, and make places, things, and people better. And having defined leadership within that construct, I was saying, look at it, there's a problem that has come. We need to paint houses. How do you do it? And I said to people, what if I came and painted one of the houses? How many of you would join me? All their hands went up. I said, why do you need me to come and paint houses? I don't live in Mushin. You guys get up and do it. I went back home and I got a very strong urge in my spirit. This was not an example, this is an assignment. Cut the long story short, within 6 weeks, we were able to mobilize over 2,000 people to paint 296 houses for free, without asking any one of them for a cover and without asking government for a cover. I thought that people would do This is the first lady of Lagos State who had come to paint a house that was built in 1960, had never seen a coat of paint. We didn't ask Lagos State for one cover, we didn't get. So they didn't offer. But Caplox offered 20,000 liters of paint. Berger offered 70% discount on all their paint. Right? Apart from that, Berger trained 120 unemployed youth for 5 days, a crash program, and gave them toolkits to start their businesses. 3 years or so later, or 4 years later, I think it was, I was trying to paint my own house. And the guy who had come to paint had given me the cost of the work that they were going to do, but didn't put any label to it. And I thought the guy was trying to play me a fast one. So I said they should call him for me. How much? Don't come and tell me that after you have finished, this is how much we are going to charge you. The guy started crying. He said the person who helps others can never remember is the one who is helped that can never forget. He said I was one of the 120 people that you changed his life. He said today I have 6 boys who are earning a living working for me. I was one of the people who was looking for money to eat 4 years ago. This is Honorable Chibudo Munguche, former Deputy Senate Speaker of the House of Representatives, painting somebody's house that was never met. He didn't even bother to meet the person. This is how we finished painting the house. Look at it. We painted 2.5 kilometers of road maiden. We painted 28 bus stops. From Jibo all the way to Ibupeju, we painted. Does anybody know? There really was there painting. That's an executive director of Mary. So it was executive director of our page at that time, right? Look at people painting, right? We had people. Who's this? Does anybody know who this is? Check that. Rooftop MCs, okay? Does anybody know who that is? Most people came with their own paint. We didn't collect money from anybody. We united 3 area boys groups that they said only saw each other on the day of war. People told me it couldn't be done. But then as they were painting over houses, right, I was telling them this is the new Nigeria combo covering the old Nigeria. There will come a time when you will not see the old Nigeria again. Amen. And it's going to happen one hand at a time. And as people were painting, you will see people that will shout, "New Nigeria, New Nigeria!" One guy fell down from a 3rd-story floor, third floor of a story building. Fell down off and the guy ran up back the ladder again. They were trying to hold him back. That's how high the energy was. Because people realized they were doing something that was greater than themselves. They were not painting their own houses. They were painting the houses of other people and feeling like their lives had meaning because they were painting houses. Guys, maybe we've done motion makeover. Maybe it's time to do Nigerian makeover. Every one of you will be a part of it. Thank you so much for your time.
Just like a lot of people, we've got a lot of questions. We had a lot of questions before now, and a number of them have been answered during your talk. Is that correct? A number of them? Okay. My first one was going to be around, a few weeks ago you came up with this agenda, a roadmap of some sort, and you said, that's the roadmap. You talked about security, you talked about education, you talked about cost of living, and all those stuff were great. There's some people here who had some questions initially around, when you say you're going to reduce the cost of living, how exactly are you going to do that?
So the first thing that you realize is that, again, like I told you, it's very interesting. You say how you're going to do something, and you say how exactly you do it. And the how exactly is a very valid question. Because there are only 4 how exactly that you use to be able to get anything you need to get done. The first thing is you need to clearly articulate the vision around what it is you do. Vision is the beginning of every how exactly. If you're clear about what the vision looks like so you know what the picture of success looks like, the next thing you need to do is you need to get people who have the capacity to be able to actualize the vision. Who have, in other words, get the right people. And those are the people that you must give the power and the mandate to actualize what that power exactly is. But the third most important thing is that you must give them resources and the free hand to do the right thing. But the last most important thing about our exam is that you are going to have to hold them accountable and then you know what they do. And these are the four things that are almost always missing in every our exam. Because, like I said, when you look at it, to be honest with you, we have put forward a simple and simplified roadmap. And let's be clear, that roadmap was not designed to be the ultimate how exactly. There are going to be levels and layers of details per sector to be able to make the simple things that we see. If you say, how exactly do we bring down the price of food? It's not simple, right? Remember that generally prices come down when supply goes up, and at least accelerates demand, right? It's really, everybody knows that. There's nothing strange to how exactly that is going to happen. So how are you going to get people to go and begin to, plan more and supply more? And we know that there will be, we can talk about that in detail, but I promise you that even as I speak today, there are documents that know exactly how that is going to be. But do we have the right vision around feeding Nigeria? Has anybody heard anything like that? The last time we heard anything about feeding Nigeria was Operation Feed the Nation in 1976. That was the vision. Since then, we have not done anything. Okay? We said we wanted a Feed Nigeria project. That was a vision. Okay? There are people that are going to be brought in to know how to actualize that. You will give them the resources. Does Nigeria have the land? Yes. Okay? They say that we are currently using less than 10% of our arable land. This government says they were already charged up to 33%. I don't know how that would be possible in any 3 years. But the previous government, in 2015, the Minister of Agriculture, who is now the Managing Director of the African Development Bank, Professor Additional, said that